The internet is a global library, a town square and a bottomless box of mysteries. One of its most fascinating roles? A massive collaborative detective agency. We're drawn to the unexplained. Cryptic puzzles, anonymous artists, and stories that spiral into digital folklore. These mysteries connect us, creating communities of amateur sleuths piecing together fragments into wild narratives. And among the strangest tales is one that questions not just history, but the very nature of memory. It's about a global icon, a theory that blends historical events, psychological quirks, and the internet's power to amplify the bizarre. This is the Mandela effect, born from the idea that the Nelson Mandela who left prison in 1990 wasn't the same man who went in. It's a story about memory, history, and the stories we tell ourselves. So what if our memories are wrong? The fake Nelson Mandela theory claims the real Mandela died in prison in the 1980s. The man released in 1990 who led South Africa and became a global icon was, according to this theory, an imposter. Proponents compare photos, point to changes in personality, and claim a grand deception orchestrated for political gain. The theory suggests powerful forces replaced Mandela with a more manageable double to ensure a peaceful transition. It reframes a story of triumph as one of manipulation. There's no credible evidence for any of this. It's pure speculation. But its persistence online reveals how easily strange ideas can take root in the digital age. The Mandela effect's roots trace back to Fiona Broome, who in 2009 discovered she, and many others, falsely remembered Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. Shocked by the shared memory, she coined the term Mandela effect for these collective false memories. The idea spread rapidly online with forums and blogs buzzing about alternate histories. For some, a psychological explanation wasn't enough. The memory felt too real. This led to wilder theories, imposter swaps, parallel universes, and glitches in the Matrix. The Mandela effect became a catch-all for any mass misremembering, from movie quotes to brand names. It's a modern myth born from digital collaboration and our refusal to accept the fallibility of memory. The theory provided a framework, however far-fetched, that made personal experience feel true. It was the birth of a modern myth, created in real time through digital collaboration. And so, a simple memory error became a global phenomenon. What's truly fascinating and perhaps a little unsettling are the vivid, detailed memories. These aren't vague impressions or fleeting thoughts. We're talking about fully formed recollections people claim to have of Nelson Mandela's supposed death in the 1980s, a time when he was very much alive, albeit imprisoned. Some recall specific news reports, complete with anchors they remember seeing. Others describe televised funerals broadcast globally for the world to mourn. Still others remember heartfelt eulogies delivered by prominent figures of the time. They have clear recollections of events that, according to all verifiable records, simply never happened. When confronted with the truth, with documented evidence that Mandela was alive and imprisoned during that period, believers often double down, clinging even tighter to their version of reality. They interpret the lack of evidence supporting their memory as further proof of a vast, elaborate cover-up designed to conceal the truth. Most who share this false memory place Mandela's death sometime between 1985 and 1989. This was a period of intense global focus on his imprisonment, with widespread calls for his release. It's highly likely that the constant stream of news about his declining health within the harsh prison environment and the broader emotionally charged narrative of the anti-apartheid struggle blurred together, solidifying into these false memories. Some who subscribe to this phenomenon point to perceived changes in Mandela's character, noting his transformation from a fiery revolutionary before his imprisonment to a more conciliatory figure afterward. They see this shift as evidence of a secret switch, a replacement of the original Mandela. But historians and biographers note that Mandela's evolution was a very real and well-documented process. His years in prison profoundly changed his strategy, leading him to embrace reconciliation, but it did not change his core identity or his unwavering commitment to justice. The Mandela effect, as it's come to be known, extends far beyond just the false memory of his death. It touches on the broader subject of how we collectively remember public figures, historical events, and even aspects of popular culture. These widespread collective misremembrances ultimately reveal more about the inner workings of our minds than they do about Nelson Mandela himself or the actual events of his life. Our memories are not perfect recordings of the past, they are actively shaped by emotion, repetition, the constant retelling and reinforcement of certain narratives, and the power of the stories we hear and internalize from others. The line between established fact and compelling fiction can blur surprisingly easily, especially within the vast and interconnected landscape of the collective mind. The Mandela effect serves as a powerful testament to both the incredible power and the inherent pitfalls of human memory. And it starkly illustrates just how easily history, as we perceive it, can be subtly or even dramatically rewritten within the confines of our own minds and within the shared consciousness of society. The Mandela effect, a term that's become increasingly prevalent in our digital age, now describes any instance of collective misremembering. It's not just about forgetting where you put your keys, it's about entire groups of people sharing the same false memory. It's why people argue, sometimes quite passionately, over whether the evil queen in Snow White actually said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall" versus "magic mirror on the wall," a seemingly minor difference that sparks intense debate online. Which one to remember? Or why so many people swear the Berenstain Bears, that beloved family of bears from our childhood, were spelled with an E. It's a detail that seems so ingrained in our memory, yet the books and the cartoon consistently spell it with an A. Some vividly remember a 90s movie called Shazam, a family-friendly comedy starring Sinbad, the comedian, as a genie, a role that seems perfectly suited to his comedic talents. The only problem, that film, despite the clear memories of so many, never existed. There's no record of it, no trailers, no behind-the-scenes footage. Or consider C-3PO from Star Wars, the Golden Protocol droid being all gold, a gleaming icon of the galaxy far, far away. But look closely and you'll see he's always had a silver leg. It's a subtle detail, but one that throws many people for a loop. Even the Ford logos, that ubiquitous symbol of American automotive history, supposed curly F, a flourish that many distinctly remember, is a common false memory. The logo has always been simpler, more streamlined. These examples and countless others feel like cracks in reality, moments where our shared experience seems to diverge, but in most cases they're really just quirks of how our brains work, the fallibility of memory, and the power of suggestion. For some, however, the pattern seems too widespread, too consistent to simply be chalked up to coincidence, fueling theories of timeline shifts, the idea that our past has somehow been altered, leaving us with these lingering discrepancies. Or even parallel universes where slightly different versions of reality exist alongside our own, occasionally bleeding through. The Mandela effect has become, in a way, a gateway to a universe of conspiracy theories, a rabbit hole of alternate realities and hidden truths. It's a fun party trick, a way to spark conversation and debate, but also a window into, a fascinating glimpse into how easily our minds can be fooled, how susceptible we are to suggestion and the power of collective belief. The internet, with its echo chambers and viral trends, amplifies these quirks, turning them into global phenomena, shared experiences that transcend borders and cultures. What starts as a simple memory error, a trick of the mind, can become a full-blown cultural myth, a shared narrative that shapes our understanding of the world. The Mandela effect is both a curiosity, a fascinating puzzle to unravel, and a cautionary tale, a reminder to question our own perceptions and to be wary of the power of suggestion. It reminds us that reality is sometimes stranger than fiction, and that our memories are far from perfect. So, what's really happening when we experience the Mandela effect? What forces are at play that make so many people share the same false memories? The answer lies in the imperfect machinery of the human brain, in the way our minds process and store information. It's not a perfect system, and these imperfections can lead to some very interesting phenomena. Memory isn't a video recorder. It doesn't simply record events as they happen, storing them perfectly for later playback. Instead, it's reconstructive, a dynamic process of piecing together fragments of information. It's rebuilt each time we recall it, meaning that every time you access a memory, you're not just retrieving it, you're actively reconstructing it. And this reconstruction is susceptible to errors and distortions. Our brains fill in gaps with plausible details, often unconsciously, to create a coherent narrative. We unconsciously add details that seem to fit, even if they weren't actually there. This process is called confabulation, a fascinating phenomenon where our brains create false memories without the intention to deceive. Constant news about Mandela's imprisonment and fears for his life, the constant media attention surrounding his struggle, may have merged into a false memory of his death, a narrative that seemed plausible given the circumstances. The internet supercharges this. It amplifies these effects, creating echo chambers of shared misinformation. Reading others' accounts can turn vague feelings into confident memories, solidifying these false memories in our minds. This is the misinformation effect, a well-documented psychological phenomenon. Our memories are altered by what we hear after the fact, by the information we're exposed to after an event has occurred. Source monitoring errors also play a role, another cognitive quirk that contributes to the Mandela effect. We remember the idea but forget where it came from, leading us to misattribute the source of our memories. Combine these quirks, these imperfections in our cognitive processes, and you get the Mandela effect. A natural if unsettling glitch in our collective software, a bug in the system of human memory. It's not a sign of parallel universes or some grand conspiracy, but of how our minds try to make sense of the world, how we construct narratives and fill in the blanks. And it's a reminder to question even our most vivid memories, to be aware of the fallibility of human memory, and to approach our own recollections with a healthy dose of skepticism. The Mandela effect didn't stay a fringe theory, it became a meme. The internet turned it into a running joke, a way to laugh about the weirdness of memory. Just found out it's Berenstain, not Berenstein. Wrong timeline again, became a common punchline. The meme made the Mandela effect mainstream, spreading awareness far beyond conspiracy forums. It also brought the science of false memories to a wider audience. By turning it into a joke, the Mandela effect lost its conspiratorial edge and became pop culture. Serious theories rarely go viral, but memes do. The fake Mandela theory lives on, not as fact but as a punchline in the internet's collective memory. It's important to step back from the rabbit hole and remember the real Nelson Mandela. He was no myth or puppet, but a complex, courageous leader who changed the world. Mandela's journey, from revolutionary to prisoner to president, was marked by sacrifice and strategic brilliance. His decision to pursue reconciliation wasn't weakness, but a hard-won choice after decades of struggle. He led South Africa through a peaceful transition, balancing the hopes of the oppressed and the fears of the privileged. The real story is one of resilience, transformation, and forgiveness. Mandela's legacy is not about imposters or conspiracies, it's about a man who endured, evolved, and united a nation. That truth is far more powerful than any fiction. So what does the Mandela effect teach us? It's more than an internet oddity. It shows that history is a living story, shaped by memory, emotion, and interpretation. Our collective memory is fragile and fallible, but deeply human. The internet can validate any belief for better or worse, creating echo chambers and blurring fact with fiction. The Mandela effect is a fun meme, but also a warning about how quickly misinformation can spread. It reminds us to approach information with skepticism and critical thinking. Ultimately, the fake Mandela theory reveals more about us, our need for meaning, our struggle with uncertainty, than about Mandela himself. And it's a reminder that history is not just what happened, but how we choose to remember it.